The 10 richest people in the world. Elon Musk only ranks 10th, and the top spot shockingly comes from Africa with a staggering $42 trillion, 26,000 times wealthier than the Queen of England. In 2024, the global wealth landscape is shaking things up like never before. Tech titans and luxury goods moguls are battling for the top, with billionaires' fortunes soaring to jaw-dropping new heights. According to data from Forbes and the Huron Research Institute, the combined wealth of the world's 10 richest individuals has smashed through the $1.5 trillion mark. You might think that's the pinnacle of global wealth. Well, think again. That colossal sum is barely a fraction of the fortunes held by history's true heavyweight tycoons. So, who really claims the throne as the wealthiest person ever? In today's video, Earth's Top 10 is taking you on an epic journey to uncover the 10 richest super tycoons in human history. 10th place, Elon Musk. Flip open the financial news lately, and you're hit with heart-stopping numbers. Tesla's stock plummeted 15.4% in a single day. Orders in the German market evaporated by 70%, and shipments from its China factory were slashed in half. At the eye of this storm, Elon Musk's net worth took a dive from a staggering $400 billion peak to $320 billion in just a few months. But if you think this is the darkest hour for the world's richest man, let's do the math. Even after losing a whopping $80 billion, Musk's remaining fortune could still buy the entire annual economic output of Finland's businesses. Or, picture this, his wealth could cover the cost of every person on Earth watching Avatar 3 100 times over. This is a man who turned sci-fi novels into cold, hard financial figures, with a wealth trajectory as thrilling as the rockets he builds. Back in 1999, Musk cashed out $165 million from PayPal. But the real game changer came in 2008 with a bold gamble. As the global financial crisis swept through, Musk poured every penny from the PayPal sale into Tesla and SpaceX. Today, those two companies together are valued at over $1 trillion. A mere shake of his stock holdings can spark a seismic shift in the global rich list. As of March 2025, Musk's 23% stake in Tesla alone is worth 5.6 times the value of BYD, while his 54% stake in SpaceX is equivalent to 3 Lockheed Martins. Unlike traditional tycoons who grow their wealth like a snowball, Musk's fortune feels like it's powered by a physics-defying cheat code. In 2021, Tesla's skyrocketing stock propelled him to become the first person in history with a net worth surpassing $300 billion. By the end of 2024, he smashed through the $400 billion barrier. What does that mean? If you stacked his wealth in $100 bills, it would wrap around the Earth's equator 48 times. To match it by winning a $5 million lottery daily, you need to keep winning for 219 years straight. Even wilder? While most folks debate whether to add boba to their milk tea, Musk's wealth grows by $380,000 per minute, roughly equal to 53 years of total income for a white-collar worker in Shanghai's Lujiazhu district. But Musk's empire isn't without its storms of controversy. His charitable foundation holds $9.4 billion, yet in 2021, it donated just $160 million, less than what he spent on private jets. His promised $6 billion to solve global hunger? It was funneled into his own company's Mars Agriculture Research instead. And let's not forget his jaw-dropping statements that send stock prices on rollercoaster rides. Still, in the face of Musk's grand vision for the stars, these controversies might just be minor blips in his cosmic journey. 9th place, John D. Rockefeller. Though his family's wealth has since been diluted through division, if we adjust for today's purchasing power, Rockefeller's fortune at its peak would exceed $340 billion. Born in 1839, this New York kid from humble beginnings could never have imagined, at 16 years old working as a lowly clerk, that he'd one day control 90% of America's oil industry. In 1870, he founded Standard Oil, which by the early 20th century monopolized the entire oil supply chain, from crude extraction to kerosene lamp lighting. Back then, for every 10 oil lamps bought in America, 9 of the profits flowed straight into Rockefeller's pockets. At his peak, his company raked in $1 million daily, equivalent to $280 million in today's dollars, while the average worker earned less than $2 a day. This jaw-dropping empire forced the US government to step in, breaking Standard Oil into 34 subsidiaries in 1911, including giants like ExxonMobil and Chevron, in what was arguably history's most expensive corporate breakup. But here's the wild part. This split made Rockefeller the first billionaire in US history. By 1913, his personal fortune hit $900 million, accounting for 3% of the US GDP at the time. Even crazier, his wealth grew grew passively. For every gallon of gasoline sold, he pocketed 1.5 cents, and with US car ownership exploding by 1 million vehicles annually, the cash kept rolling in. But Rockefeller's superpower wasn't just business domination. He pioneered modern philanthropy, shaping its impact to this day. He donated $550 million during his lifetime, a sum greater than the combined endowments of all American universities at the time. Of course, his wealth came with controversy. Through railroad rebates, espionage networks, and predatory acquisitions, Standard Oil crushed over 200 competitors. Journalist Ida Tarbell exposed how Rockefeller's team would pose as customers to ruin rivals' reputations before snapping up their refineries at rock-bottom prices. Yet, economic historians note that he slashed oil prices from 58 cents per gallon in 1865 to just 8 cents by 1897. A 94% drop that made lighting affordable and fueled the Industrial Revolution. When Rockefeller passed away in 1937 at age 97, his wealth still accounted for 1.5% of US GDP. That kind of wealth concentration is unimaginable in today's globalized world, where even the richest person's fortune is less than 0.1% of global GDP. 8th place, Andrew Carnegie. If someone told you today that a single tycoon could buy an entire country with their personal fortune, you'd probably think it's some internet joke, but history begs to differ. Meet Andrew Carnegie, the 19th century steel king who did just that. This rags to riches legend, a poor Scottish immigrant, didn't just climb to become the world's richest man, he gave away 90% of his fortune in his later years, leaving a legacy that still resonates. At 12, Carnegie arrived in America with his family, toiling as a child laborer in a cotton mill for less than $2 a week. But fate shifted gears when he became a telegraph operator, memorizing the names and addresses of every Pittsburgh entrepreneur to deliver telegrams with precision, earning the favor of influential figures. By 25, he was a railroad executive. By 30, he'd struck his first pot of gold through investments in oil and railroad bonds. While others were still hauling goods by horse and cart, Carnegie sniffed out the future in steel. In 1875, he built America's first Bessemer converter steel plant, skyrocketing US steel production 20-fold in just 2 decades. In 1901, he sold his steel empire to the Morgan Consortium for a deal worth $11.47 billion in today's dollars. This transaction birthed the world's first company valued over $1 billion US Steel, and catapulted Carnegie past oil baron Rockefeller to claim the title of the world's richest man. Adjusted for 2024 purchasing power, his fortune topped $372 billion. But what truly etched Carnegie's name in history was his unparalleled generosity. In his essay The Gospel of Wealth, he declared that dying with immense riches is shameful. And so, this steel titan transformed into a real-life wealth dispenser. Over 1,700 public libraries sprang up across America thanks to his donations. New York's Carnegie Hall still echoes with the music of artists, while Carnegie Mellon University, seeded with his $2 million gift, worth $620 million today, sparked a legacy of innovation in tech and the arts. He even handed scientists blank checks. In 1902, his Carnegie Institution funded Einstein's relativity research and dinosaur fossil excavations. Yes, even the Brontosaurus carries his name. Today, stroll through New York, and from concert halls to museums, from university labs to community libraries, Carnegie's monuments of wealth stand tall, a testament to his extraordinary life. 7th place, Catherine the Great. If Forbes' billionaire list could time travel to the 18th century, Catherine the Great's name would utterly overshadow modern titans like Musk and Bezos. This empress, who expanded Russia's borders to the Black Sea, adorned St. Petersburg's Winter Palace with gold, and had Enlightenment thinkers scrambling to dedicate books to her. How vast was her wealth? Modern historians estimate her fortune, in today's dollars, at a staggering $1.5 trillion, enough to buy Apple Incorporated 3 times over with plenty to spare. Born in 1729 as Sophia, a minor Prussian noble, she could never have imagined that a palace coup would launch her into Russia's golden age. In 1762, after overthrowing her husband Peter III, this German-born woman, reborn as Catherine, ruled for 34 years, boosting the Russian Empire's GDP to 5% of the global total, equivalent to the entire economy of France at the time. Behind that 5% lay a jaw-dropping monopoly on resources. When she annexed Crimea, its Black Sea ports became the lifeline of Europe's grain trade. When she signed the treaties to partition Poland 3 times, she turned half of modern-day Germany into her personal backyard. Historians calculate that during her reign, Russia gained 520,000 square kilometers of territory, the size of modern France. The iron mines, forests, and fertile black soil beneath these lands, all recorded as assets in her private ledger. While European nobles were still hauling gold coins by carriage, Catherine built a financial network spanning Europe and Asia. Her supported Ural mines produce 60% of Europe's pig iron, and fur prices set at the St. Petersburg Exchange could sway markets in London. Her masterstroke was pioneering a serf shareholding system. Russia's 23 million serfs, though nominally owned by landlords, were effectively her fixed assets, generating wealth that funded 2/3 of Russia's annual military budget. When she signed off on the budget to build Yekaterinburg from the Winter Palace, it was like a modern CEO greenlighting a multinational acquisition, except she didn't need bank loans, because the entire state treasury was her personal account. But her most extravagant spending was on culture. She poured 4.6 million rubles, equivalent to $460 million today, into building the Hermitage Museum on the Neva River, back when Paris's Louvre was still just a royal residence. Her personal art collection included Rembrandt masterpieces snatched from Europe and Qing dynasty porcelain traded from China. Even more outrageous, her breakup fees to lovers. Prince Potemkin received 40,000 serfs and a Crimean villa, while Count Orlov was gifted a box encrusted with 3,000 diamonds. These seemingly extravagant expenses were, in fact, political investments, turning the entire noble class into her personal holding company. 6th place, Caesar Augustus. Imagine an ancient Roman titan whose wealth could make today's richest billionaires go silent. Meet Caesar Augustus, the founding emperor of the Roman Empire. Modern estimates peg his fortune, in today's dollars, at a staggering $4.6 trillion, equivalent to the combined market value of Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft, just barely matching him. Born in 63 BCE in the modest Italian town of Velletri, Augustus started as an ordinary noble. His life changed dramatically after Julius Caesar's assassination. At 18, he inherited not only the weighty name Octavian but also Caesar's colossal fortune and political legacy. What propelled him to the pinnacle of wealth, however, was a 20-year masterclass in power games. By forming the Second Triumvirate to crush the Senate faction that killed Caesar, and later defeating Mark Antony and Cleopatra's allied forces, Augustus brought the entire Mediterranean world under his control. By 27 BCE, when the Senate bestowed upon him the title Augustus, he already commanded 25% to 30% of the global economy. This cunning ruler knew how to quietly amass a fortune. While outwardly restoring the republic and returning provincial governance to the Senate, he built a true wealth empire through military control, tax reforms, and resource monopolies. With 20 Roman legions at his command, he held Egypt, the Mediterranean's breadbasket, ensuring a steady flow of gold and silver into his personal coffers. It's hard for modern minds to grasp the scale of Augustus' wealth. A fifth of the Roman Empire's annual economic output belonged to him personally, equivalent to owning 1/5 of the empire's farmland, mines, ports, and shops. He rebuilt Rome, swapping brick for marble, constructing aqueducts, a police force, and a fire brigade, projects that today would be trillion-dollar mega-projects. But Augustus' wealth wasn't just from plundering war spoils. He established history's first centralized fiscal system, standardizing provincial taxes and creating a 20,000 Roman-mile road network, with armies escorting trade caravans to ensure commerce thrived. Fascinatingly, Augustus lived modestly despite his riches. He resided in an unassuming house on Palatine Hill, slept on a hard bed, ate plain bread, and even submitted a detailed imperial financial report to the Senate on his deathbed. This blend of immense wealth and understated pragmatism feels oddly reminiscent of today's tech moguls. 5th place, Joseph Stalin. He never owned a private yacht or an offshore bank account, yet he could command an entire nation's gold reserves. He wore a patched military coat, yet controlled an economy accounting for nearly 10% of the global total. This was Joseph Stalin, the leader of the Soviet Union. According to data from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the Soviet economy in 1950 represented 9.5% of the global total, equivalent to $7.5 trillion in today's dollars, about 35% of the US economy at the time. Legally, this wealth belonged to the state, but as General Secretary of the Communist Party, Chairman of the Council of Ministers, and Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Stalin's absolute power made him the de facto controller of the nation's assets. Historian George Leiber from the University of Alabama at Birmingham notes that Stalin's dominion over Soviet resources far surpassed the control modern tycoons have over corporate empires. He could order Siberia's mines to ramp up production, redirect Ukraine's grain reserves, or shift a third of the nation's industrial capacity to military output. This unique form of wealth was on full display during World War II. When Hitler's steel juggernaut swept through Eastern Europe, Stalin's Order No. 227 not only commanded the Red Army to defend every inch of soil but also turned the entire nation's economic gears toward war. Factories deep in the Ural Mountains churned out T-34 tanks around the clock, Central Asian collective farms surrendered all harvests to the front lines, and even Gulag prisoners were conscripted into production brigades. This ability to transform 170 million people and 22 million square kilometers of territory into a war machine was, in essence, an asset reorganization executed through administrative decrees, on a scale that dwarfs any corporate merger. But this extraordinary wealth came at a devastating human cost. To achieve industrialization, Soviet farmers were forced to surrender their last grains. To cement his authority, over 1 million class enemies vanished into the Gulag snowy wastelands. To sustain wartime production, workers toiled in -40°C factory conditions. While we marvel at the economic scale of Stalin's wealth, we cannot ignore the historical shadow cast by the 20 million unnatural deaths under his rule. Fourth place, Wu Zetian. In China's over 2,000 years of imperial history, among more than 600 emperors, only one woman ascended to the pinnacle of power, Wu Zetian. This legendary figure, whose wealth modern scholars estimate at $16 trillion, single-handedly rewrote the rules of a patriarchal society. Imagine this: combine the fortunes of Musk, Bezos, and Zuckerberg, and they still wouldn't touch the scraps of Wu Zetian's private treasury. This 7th century empress truly embodied the saying, "All under heaven belongs to the emperor." The entire Tang Empire's silk, porcelain, tea, and salt iron monopolies were, in essence, her personal property. While modern tycoons obsess over company valuations, Wu Zetian turned the empire's entire GDP into the jewels on her crown. From the daughter of a timber merchant to the consort of 2 emperors, Wu Zetian displayed extraordinary cunning from the moment she entered the palace at 14. During 3 years attending the ailing Emperor Taizong, she not only mastered classical texts but also unraveled the art of political maneuvering. While other concubines languished in Ganya Temple, she leveraged her past connection with Emperor Gaozong to re-enter the palace, rising from a minor consort to empress in just 7 years, each step a precise strike on the fulcrum of power. Historical records reveal her ruthless ambition. To topple Empress Wang, she didn't hesitate to sacrifice her own daughter. Behind such brutal tactics burned a thirst for power fiercer than any man's. Her true mastery of wealth began in 660 CE, when Emperor Gaozong, blinded by illness, allowed her to rule from behind the curtain. Over the next 20 years, she transformed the Tang's bureaucratic system into a finely tuned wealth-generating machine. While modern economists debate agrarian versus commercial policies, Wu Zetian implemented light corvée and low taxes, slashing farmers' burdens by 30%. Yet, this agricultural revival doubled the state treasury's annual revenue. She revitalized the Silk Road, with caravans stretching for miles, as Persian gold coins and exotic Western treasures flooded into Chang'an's West Market, making it the world's most vibrant international trade hub. Her displays of wealth were uniquely historic. The Luoyang Longmen Grotto's Vairocana Buddha, carved in her likeness, consumed a third of the Tang dynasty's gold output just for its gilding. The Mingtang Paradise Complex, towering nearly 100 meters, drained the treasury's reserves over a decade, only to burn down a year after completion. Undeterred, she ordered it rebuilt without blinking. Her luxuries, like 12-layered canopies studded with luminous pearls and robes woven with gold-threaded bird patterns, were each worth the GDP of a modern city. But Wu Zetian's true wealth secret lay in her institutional reforms. She pioneered the imperial examination system, allowing scholars from humble backgrounds to rise through merit, injecting the empire with skilled financial administrators. Her Tongui complaint boxes established a primitive anti-corruption mechanism, curbing official embezzlement. Historians note that during her reign, per capita grain possession reached its Tang dynasty peak, a testament to her wealth for the people's wisdom that underpinned her 15-year rule. Third place, Emperor Akbar. Picture a 16th century emperor wielding a fortune equivalent to $21 trillion, enough to buy the combined market value of every listed company in North America. His empire's economic might accounted for a quarter of the world's GDP at the time, and even experts at the British Museum admit that this Indian Qin Shi Huang lived in such opulence that contemporary European monarchs seemed like they were dwelling in straw huts by comparison. He was Akbar the Great, the third emperor of the Mughal dynasty, a legendary figure who paved his floors with gold and held court with peacocks perched on diamond-encrusted thrones. Born in 1542, Akbar was a chosen one. At just 13, he inherited a crumbling empire, but this military genius unified the Indian subcontinent in a mere 20 years, forging a vast domain stretching from the Bay of Bengal to Afghanistan. His pioneering tiered land tax system was like an ancient version of big data management. Every plot of farmland's yield was meticulously recorded by officials using red and blue ink, with farmers paying just a third of their harvest. This precision revenue collection filled the imperial treasury with enough gold to cover the entire foundation of the Taj Mahal. Even more impressive, he abolished the discriminatory poll tax on non-Muslims, cleverly encouraging Hindu merchants to voluntarily pay a 30% trade tax. Akbar founded a divine faith, essentially a policy to shield commerce from religious conflicts. Jewelers from Rajasthan could confidently open shops beside mosques, while Catholic blacksmiths from Goa forged bronze bells for Hindu temples. This religious tolerance skyrocketed the empire's commercial tax revenue fivefold in just a decade. Akbar's armies built fortresses at the Khyber Pass, rerouting the ancient Silk Road right to his doorstep. His Persian wife, Mariam, was a commercial prodigy, leading a multinational trading company that dominated the Indian Ocean's indigo dye trade. Her fleet of 200 merchant ships carried cotton and spices to the Persian Gulf, returning with cabins stuffed full of Arabian warhorses and African ivory. Historians estimate that Mariam's private fleet alone generated annual profits equivalent to a decade's worth of the entire French royal income. Second place, Emperor Jiaoshu, Song Shunzong. When people think of Song dynasty emperors, the stereotype of a frail, struggling empire often comes to mind. But open the account books from the Yuan Feng era, and a staggering figure jumps out. The Song dynasty's annual fiscal revenue reached 60 million yuan, equivalent to $30 trillion today. Sitting atop a volatile wave of reforms, Emperor Jiaoshu, known as Song Shunzong, commanded the largest state treasury in the history of human agrarian civilization. Official records paint him as a frugal exemplar, donning patched dragon robes. Yet, in the secret ledgers of the Sinong Temple, his royal enterprises sprawled across both banks of the Bian River. The imperial treasury's inner vault was stacked with mountains of silver ingots. In the first year of Yuan Feng alone, 18 million yuan of royal private assets were recorded. Adjusted for today's purchasing power, this sum could buy a third of the world's silk production at the time. But Jiaoshu's true wealth secret wasn't in gold or silver, it was in the financial empire he built. While Europe was still bartering, the Song dynasty's paper currency, jiaozi, had been circulating in Sichuan for half a century. The royal mint churned out 5 million yuan in copper coins annually, matching the entire currency circulation of contemporary Europe. From the heights of Kaifeng Prefecture, overlooking the morning bells of Daxiangguo Temple mingled with the clatter of abacuses, and the 700 restaurants outside Zhuqiu Gate lit up all night, this prosperity was driven by Jiaoshu's ingenious wealth perpetual motion machine. The state monopolized bulk commodity trading while tightly controlling salt and tea monopolies. Royal fleets sailed from Guangzhou, laden with silk and porcelain, returning with champa rice seeds and South Sea pearls. Under Wang Anxi's Qingmu loan system, the state became the largest agricultural bank, issuing 15 million yuan in loans annually, with interest income covering the Northwest's military expenses. This proto-capitalist model, centuries ahead of its time, drove the Song treasury's growth at a staggering 12% per year. But the flip side is equally fascinating. The emperor's private vault held rare dragon's ambergris from the South Seas, yet his wardrobe contained only 5 everyday outfits rotated in use. Imperial kitchen records show his daily meals cost no more than a 7th-rank county magistrate's standard. This almost schizophrenic view of wealth peaked during the Yuan Feng 5th-year bureaucratic reform, when Jiaoshu centralized fiscal authority under the Ministry of Revenue but entrusted his private royal assets to the newly established Taifu Temple for meticulous management. When envoys from the Western Xia visited, he casually gifted silk worth 100,000 yuan, yet after banquets, he ordered leftover dishes be given to the commoners outside the palace. Ironically, this emperor, swimming in mountains of gold and silver, passed away at the young age of 38, his life cut short in the prime of his reign. First place, Genghis Khan. If you want to talk about the ultimate rags to riches story, Genghis Khan's saga makes every fictional hero look pale in comparison. This kid from the Mongolian steppes measured out an empire spanning Europe and Asia with nothing but a horsewhip. Modern scholars estimate his wealth, in today's dollars, at a mind-boggling $120 trillion. Behind this figure lies the largest land empire in history. When his cavalry razed Beijing, merchant caravans were already hauling Persian rugs to Hungary along his Silk Road. Envoys from Korea paid tribute ancient mountains of silk at Karakoram, while gold plundered from Central Asia was melted into arrowheads for the next battlefield. This horseback economist understood that wealth must flow to grow. He assigned accounting teams to every expeditionary force, converting war spoils into military supplies in real time. He built a 13th-century global logistics network with relay stations every 40 kilometers along the Silk Road and pioneered a multinational currency system, allowing Baghdad silver coins to circulate in China. While European lords bickered over handfuls of gold, the Mongols forged an economic bloc spanning 24 million square kilometers. From the Korean peninsula to the Black Sea, merchants operated under a unified tax system. This visionary approach filled the felt rugs of Mongol tents with treasures plundered from over 30 civilizations. But here's the mind-blowing twist. This ruler, who held half the world's wealth, lived as simply as a monk. He insisted on dwelling in portable felt tents, distributing looted gold to his warriors and using spoils to spur soldiers to conquer more cities. His ability to transform human resources and geographic advantages into capital fueled an empire that spread like wildfire across the steppes. Modern genetic studies reveal that 16 million men today carry his Y chromosome, perhaps the most priceless legacy he left to the world. 0th place, Mansa Musa. In the face of a 14th-century African emperor, today's wealth legends might only rank as bronze tier. Meet Mansa Musa, the ruler of the Mali Empire, the West African king of gold. Historians still debate the true scale of his fortune. Some estimate his wealth at $400 billion in today's dollars, while others speculate it could reach a staggering $130 trillion. He controlled over half the world's gold supply at the time, with just his gold reserves valued at $10 trillion today. Born in 1280, Mansa Musa didn't inherit the throne with a golden spoon. In 1312, his brother Abubakar II abruptly abdicated, leading 2,000 ships and tens of thousands of people into the depths of the Atlantic, never to be heard from again. This mysterious expedition thrust Musa onto the throne unexpectedly, sparking West Africa's most dazzling golden age. He annexed 24 cities, expanding the Mali Empire across 2,000 miles from the Atlantic coast to modern-day Niger, controlling nearly half the old world's gold production. But what made Mansa Musa a global legend was his 1324 pilgrimage to Mecca. His entourage of 60,000 people was like a moving city of gold. 12,000 slaves donned Persian silk woven with gold thread, 100 camels carried hundreds of pounds of gold bricks, and even the goats wore pure gold collars. As this dazzling procession passed through Cairo, Musa's casual scattering of gold dust crashed the local gold market, crippling Egypt's economy for a decade. His golden diplomacy didn't stop there. On his return, he spent 440 pounds of gold, worth $8.2 million today, to hire an Andalusian poet to design the Great Mosque of Timbuktu. He brought Islamic scholars to establish Sankore University, transforming the West African desert into a beacon of academia. In the 1375 Catalan Atlas, Musa is depicted holding a gold nugget, reigning over Timbuktu, a symbol that convinced Europeans of a mythical Eden of gold in Africa, luring 19th-century adventurers to chase this legendary city. Yet, behind the golden flood lay a bittersweet tale. After Musa's death in 1337, his successors struggled to maintain the vast empire, and the arrival of European colonizers shattered Mali into pieces. And that wraps up this episode. Which of these 11 richest figures in global history left the biggest impression on you? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.